Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Justice League Crisis on Two Earths. This movie came out in 2010 and it's an animated movie. Boy, let me tell you, in my honest opinion, this is the best Justice League movie we've ever gotten in terms of just animation and even live action. This was a very well thought out movie because it was done by people who actually love comic books and everything. You know, the producer was Bruce Timm, the timmiest of them all and everything. Like the man, legacy goes back from Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series, and the two Justice League series, along with other things. And it was written by the late Dwayne McDuffie, may he rest in peace and stuff. And the movie was directed by Lauren Montgomery and Sam Liu, who have directed several DC projects, animated movies, series, and stuff like that. So it's done with a creative team that knows exactly what the heck they're doing. And this was a good time for comic book fans in 2010. This is when a lot of good stuff started coming out. The MCU was forming around this time. We had so many good content in terms of comic book stuff, whether it was DC or Marvel. And sadly, now in 2026, all we're getting is crap. I don't understand how we can go from that, from greatness to crap. But somehow we did. And this is my all-time favorite Justice League movie. There's some other good ones too, don't get me wrong, but I truly believe this is the best of the best. This was during the time in DC animation when they were on their A game and everything. Before the whole New 52 era came and before the whole Tomorrowverse came, that really sunk the ship and everything. The classic stuff was where it was at in terms of DC animation. And it's funny the flip flop of like when it comes to Marvel DC, because back in like the olden days of the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, DC was dominating in live action. But Marvel was dominating in animation during those periods and stuff. Then it kind of flip-flopped to where Marvel started to dominate in live action, but DC was dominating in animation during this time. And I still don't understand why they won't never get these creative teams like Bruce Timm and his people to make some of the live action stuff. But sadly, for whatever reason, they just don't. I just don't understand it. Like, I really just don't understand it. And this was part of the DC like universe animated original movies. And that's a long freaking title to say. And I forget which number this one is. Like, let's see. It's the 7th movie they made at that time. And I remember everything that came out before that, I was just loving. Not everything. There was 2 projects I didn't love, but Superman Doomsday, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Superman, Batman, Public Enemy was some really good movies. And this all started back in 2007 with Superman Doomsday. But like the thing about this movie I love so much is like, first of all, the animation is stellar. They really nailed it in terms of the drawing and the animation and like, the way the characters look and stuff. Like, it's not too bright, it's not too dark, it's a nice medium. The characters they didn't go for the normal cartoony characters that they're normally known for doing. Now, in Batman the animated series, they had more realistic looking people, but then as time passed and restrictions were given by studios and stuff, they had to start making this stuff look more cartoony and angular. But these people had some definition to them, some like muscles, and they just look more realistic people. But their faces still kind of had that cartoony look to them. So it was a nice blend. The color palette is very nice, and not only that, but the CGI that was added to the movie blends in perfectly to that of the digital animation, to where you can't even tell it's CGI and everything. In the past, you could tell, but they've really gotten better with that. Another thing I love about this movie is the action. The action is amazing. It's a non-stop 75-minute action-packed movie. There's action left and right, and they barely slow down. And then when they do slow down, it's normally dialogue that's pretty edgy, except for one part. The whole love romance thing. There's a love romance story plot in this, and that really weighs the movie down, in my opinion. That's the only time this movie slows down to that of a crawl and everything. Other than that, it's action packed, and some of the best choreographed action I've ever seen, because you have the Justice League versus the Crime Syndicate, which is kind of like the doppelgangers from another dimension and stuff, with the similar powers. And not only that, but they're fighting other villains that are technically heroes in the normal universe and everything. The way everybody gets enough ample screen time is cool, but not everybody gets the time to shine. Like, normally the only people who really get some good screen time is like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Martian Manhunter. The Flash gets some good screen time, but mostly just in his dialogue. And Green Lantern Hal Jordan, he kind of gets sidelined in this movie and stuff. Like, there's not really too much about him, and there's not really much we know about him. Which, this was also around the time when Hal Jordan started to reappear in like media and stuff, because he had disappeared for a good while and Jon Stewart had took over in terms of like animation and other stuff. And I remember the Green Lantern movie, they reintroduced Hal again. And so Hal started to take over for a good like decade or so. And then starting now to go right back to Jon Stewart, which was the first Green Lantern I ever saw. And that's because of the Justice League animation series. But everybody gets some pretty good screen time, except for that of Green Lantern. And so, like, I really love how they displayed like their powers and stuff. It wasn't just in a cartoony, comic booky kind of way, because this movie tried to be very serious. It tried to be cinematic. It tried to act like this was a live action movie with live action logic and everything. And that's another thing I like about the movie, the logic. Like, Bruce Timm's, when they was dealing with the crime syndicate in this movie, the crime syndicate are just bad people. They're not heroes turned bad. They're just bad and everything. But he thought to himself, it'll be a little silly if we just have like a bunch of like super villains that are technically, we're used to seeing them as superheroes, just running around and fighting the Justice League. Wouldn't it be more interesting if the crime syndicate was like a real syndicate, like a mob and everything? And that's how it was written. They were basically mobsters with superpowers, and they basically, control most of like the country, and soon they want to control the world. Because the country that they live in have pretty much all bowed down to them and everything, because they are so powerful and stuff. And it's to the point where the Justice League of that universe have all died except for Lex Luthor. Then there are the made men and everything. Instead of just random superheroes that we know of that are now bad guys and everything, they decided to do this whole thing of made men, where the crime syndicate, the leaders of like different sections, they endow like regular people with superpowers to be like their goons and everything. And that's kind of like smart and everything. I like that. Like if it was to be live action, you would kind of assume they would do something like that. So I like the idea that they really thought outside the box and everything. Another thing I love about this movie is the voice cast. Like the voice cast is amazing because the thing about the voice cast is that at times you think you're hearing the Justice League animated series voice actors, but you're not. They really found people who sound extremely similar to that of like, the like animated series, and that's like really cool and stuff. 'Cause there were times I'm like, nah, that has to be that person, but no, I've heard this voice before. Who the heck is this and stuff? And I just really love that. Another thing I love is just the structure of like the plot. From A to B to C to D and everything just flows very nicely. Nothing feels confusing at times. Nothing lags on for too long. Nothing goes by too quickly. Like the structuring and like the pacing of this movie was done very well for that of an animated movie. Because we will see once they went to a different creative team and like the New 52 and like the Tomorrowverse, everything was just jumbled around, and it's just like, come on, James Tucker, you're better than this. You worked with Bruce Timm on Justice League and Batman Beyond and stuff like that. And I truly believe he didn't even have much say. I don't believe. I truly believe they just kind of like pushed him aside and everything. And, when it comes to this movie of Crisis on Two Earths, I was a comic book fan, but I didn't read comics growing up. My comic book knowledge comes from cartoon shows and live action movies. And of course, those are adaptations and stuff. But the thing about these animated movies is that they try to be a bit closer to the comics, but every once in a while they will change stuff up. And so this movie of Crisis on Two Earths, there is that event of Crisis on Infinite Earths. The big event where, there was too many heroes and villains and too many like running around DC, and they tried to simplify it by destroying a bunch of Earths and stuff like that. And that came out in like the 60s, and there was always like a crisis event and stuff from Gardner Fox. And so like, Justice League 29 to 30 issue and stuff like that. And then there was like Crisis on Earth 3 and stuff like that. Then in the 2000s, there was a whole Grant Morrison Earth 2 graphic novel and stuff where Lex is actually a hero. And, he fights against the crime syndicate, and he's part of the Justice League. And then stories like this are always fun, where they just combine two major event comics and just smush them into one. Seeing your heroes turn to villains is always just kind of fun, because you get kind of tired of the same old. And that's one thing I loved about the Justice League animated series is when they brought in the Justice Lords. The Justice Lords looked identical to that of the Justice League characters. It's just their costumes were different and their hair designs were different. Some of them. Well, Wonder Woman was. But the Crime Syndicate, they do something a little differently. They actually look different than the Justice League. It's just they have a similar build and kind of sometimes a similar costume and stuff. But for the most part, they do look like different people, which is still, I don't understand why they won't do in live action movies, that is. They kind of did it in the Arrowverse on Earth X, that series, but they used people who looked identical to that of the heroes. They just covered their face up with masks and helmets so you couldn't like see, and it was able to do the action a whole lot more. And so I do like the idea of them combining these two, like, comics and stuff. Two comics I had known nothing about. Now, the reason this all came about was because of Dwayne McDuffie, may he rest in peace. He is the man who created Static, and along with a bunch of other like black superheroes from Milestone Comics, like Ion and Rocket. And so he worked on like the Justice League cartoon series and I believe Batman Beyond. And so when he was on Justice League as like a writer and stuff, he came up with a direct-to-DVD movie called Worlds Collide. It was supposed to bridge the gap between that of Justice League the animated series and Justice League Unlimited. And because it's kind of like you wonder like what happened all in between those like series that are technically the same series and everything and the same characters. And it was supposed to explain how like Wonder Woman got her invisible jet all of a sudden in like Justice League Unlimited. It just kind of just like appeared and stuff. And so but that series of course had ended, and they was gonna do like a direct to DVD. But then as they started doing these direct DVD movies based on comics and stuff and not that of the series, they came to him and be all like, hey, we liked your Worlds Collide like, movie and everything. But like, since we're not doing the show no more, how would you like to change and like your script up a little bit to fit more of this whole like Earth on like to Earth thing and the crime syndicate and stuff like that. So he started reworking his script, and this is now what we got. And he came up with an amazing script and everything. Now, in the Justice League series, like I said before, they had the Justice Lords. But those were former heroes who just turned bad. They didn't want that for this movie. They wanted an actual crime syndicate. And I am kind of curious now to know what Worlds Collide would have been like. Like, what was the original movie? We know Wonder Woman was going to get her jet, but what else was going to happen? Like, because in Justice League Unlimited, all of a sudden, just about every DC hero just started popping up everywhere. There was a new watchtower and everything, and like just a bunch of like other stuff. Now, when you watch this movie, there are elements, like I said before, of Worlds Collide in this movie. Like, you see the Justice League building a brand new watchtower and everything. They have tons of javelins, just like they did in like Unlimited and stuff. And even the personalities are very similar and stuff. You have Batman who's still being like a loner, but he's now acting more like his grumpy self that has been portrayed in pretty much every adaptation there is in live action and even animated. It's just something they started to do with like Batman. It's like, I get it. We like seeing him mean and grumpy and stuff like that, but he's not always that moody and stuff. But this is the course he's been taking in a lot of adaptations. Wonder Woman is still very much like the conscious of like, the group and everything. She's caring, but very strong and an amazing fighter. John Jones is always that like, the soul and heart and everything of like, the group. He's lonely, he's sad, his family's dead and everything. And like he'll never be able to regain that. And very logical thinking. Superman, we see is a bit more rough in terms of personality. He's a little bit more temperamental in this movie. He's a little bit more agitated, especially when it comes to Lex, because he hates Lex Luthor, which is something we saw big time in Justice League and Unlimited. You know, he really hated Luthor, and he had a chip on his shoulder, even to the point of beating up like Captain Marvel and stuff. The DC Captain Marvel, not the Marvel one. I hate calling him Shazam and stuff. And of course, you know, the Flash is just a goofball and everything, but we don't know which version of the Flash this is. Back in the day, everybody assumed it was Wally West because he has that silly, goofy personality. But then they made a sequel to this movie called Justice League Doom, where the animation was slightly altered, but now everybody has a different voice cast from that of the Justice League animated series movie. And it was kind of weird because it was kind of like they had the same designs, now they got different voices, and now we know for a fact this ain't Wally, it's like Barry Allen with blonde hair and stuff. And there's no Hawk Girl in this movie. Well, technically there is, but she's part of the crime syndicate and she dies very early on, and we don't know nothing about her personality. But like, yeah, it's just, you know, like, characters are very similar to, you know, that animated series and stuff. So it kind of felt like a sequel series in a way, but from an alternate like dimension and stuff, you know. And one interesting thing about like this movie is Batman actually murders two people, but it goes over your head because he's not actually pulling like a trigger or like stabbing nobody, but he basically tricks one dude into killing himself, and the dude didn't even know it, and the other one he just sent to like a parallel Earth when a bomb blew up and everything. But it's crazy because you just don't never really see Batman going around murdering people and stuff. But yeah, it's like this was actually just supposed to be Worlds Collide, and I really, really want to know what that's gonna be all about, but we'll never know now. Andre Romano, she was the voice director for this, and of course she's the voice director for a lot of like DC projects and stuff. Now normally what she likes to do is like she likes to have all the actors and actresses in the same room recording at the same time so they can feed off each other's energy. For some bizarre reason, this time she changed it up to where she had everybody just like coming in one day at a time to do their voice reads and stuff. But it still worked because, you know, a lot of animation stuff does that, where you only have one person in the recording booth and not an entire cast in the same room. Now, when they was doing the whole first look at this movie thing on the DVDs and stuff, she loved the idea of that there's being like parallel dimensions out there in the world. She finds that very fascinating because she believes that humans are not the only living like people in the universe. She believes in like aliens and stuff like that. So she had a blast like when she heard like about this movie. It's fun seeing her light up like that. The voice cast is stacked. They didn't go for a lot of traditional like voice actors and stuff. They went for like people that like names you recognize. You know what I'm saying? Like Gina Torres as like Superwoman and stuff. I remember her from like the Hercules show, Xena, Cleopatra 2525, Firefly, The Matrix and everything. They got Mark Harmon from that NCIS show, whatever you call it. Chris North, I have no idea who that is. NYPD, okay, and Sex in the City and The Good Wife. Okay, so he's from like that. But in terms of like Justice League people, and then I don't know who Jonathan Adams is, who is Martian Manhunter. I have no idea who this dude is. He was Henry Walker on American Dreams and a show called Bones and Last Man Standing. I have no idea who he is. And then they got like Vanessa Marshall as Wonder Woman. And she's the voice actress mainly. And I loved her voice as Wonder Woman. It was great. They even brought her back for Flashpoint and everything, playing that Wonder Woman. And if they can't get the lady from the Justice League show, then she is my favorite like Wonder Woman voice actress and stuff. Carrie Russell did an okay job for her Wonder Woman movie, but not like her, man. And something Dawson. I forget her name. She was Wonder Woman at one point, but she was good, but not like her, man. Now Josh Keaton played the Flash, and like of course he was Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man, and he's a voice actor. Nolan North, he is a voice actor. He does like live action too at times, but he's mostly like a voice actor. Deadpool from like Marvel animated stuff. So it was cool hearing like his voice and everything. And like when it comes to, and then also they got William Baldwin as Batman, which I like William Baldwin's Batman voice. It's not too dark and it's not too light. It's a nice blend, you know what I'm saying? But I don't like this dude because he defended a man who committed essay. Like, how you gonna write a letter of sympathy for somebody who got convicted of that? I can't stand that. Like, that's scummy in my opinion. So he will always be a scumbag because of that. Like, just because he's your friend, he's convicted, rotting in jail, that don't mean you write like a letter of sympathy trying to get his behind out. Like, I'm sorry, you just don't do that. Now, as for the crime syndicate, I don't know who any of these, like most of these people are. Brian Bloom, he was like Ultraman. He was in the A-Team movie. He was Captain America's voice for Avengers Earth, Mightiest Heroes. But I don't know who this dude is. Nolan North, he also did Power Ring and stuff like that. I don't know who James Patrick Stewart is, who was like Johnny Quick, but he's some American actor, General Hospital and stuff. Actually, he kind of looks a little familiar. Slightly. I don't know who this dude is, though. Oh, okay. He was in an episode of Sliders, Derek Bond. I remember him now. And he was also on Wolverine and the X-Men and True Jackson and stuff. And in the show Jesse, he played her dad. That's why. He's also the dad from The Villains of Valley View from Disney Channel, which was actually his last project a couple of years back. Yeah, I know who this guy is. And I didn't know he was. I had no idea who this dude is. Like, I'm thinking of Sliders. I'm like, holy crap, he's that dude and stuff. And then they got James Woods as like Owlman, and I can't stand James Wood. He is scum. But that man did an amazing voice job as like Owlman. Instead of playing him all manic and loud and crazy like most like villains, he played him more somber and soft-spoken and everything, which was creepy and eerie all on his own. The movie starts off with Lex Luthor and that of the Jester. The Jester is the Joker. I love Lex Luthor's exosuit. It's gold and black, making him look very godly. Yeah, I do like his comic accurate purple-green suit, but this is a nice touch because it's an alternate reality. And he's the founding member of their Justice League. And so they're breaking into one of the syndicates, like storage places, to get the Quantum Trigger. The Quantum Trigger is the detonation thing for this huge bomb they have that's kind of like a nuke, but more powerful than that of a nuke. And so they're being pursued by that version of Martian Manhunter and Hawk Girl. The Jester like sacrifices himself so Lex can get out of there. And he teleports himself to, or slide to, that of a different dimension, to one that is like, home to the Justice League of this movie. I like this version of Lex. It's cool to see like a good Lex that's not like the traditional Lex and everything. I hate when the normal Lex who's evil all of a sudden turns good. Like, I hate that crap. So I do prefer like this version. He's still very highly intelligent, coming up with like a sliding device. I say sliders because there's a TV show called Sliders that they travel to parallel dimensions. So, and that's the device that's called a timer, and they slide the dimensions. But he has like a sliding device to where he can go to like alternate dimensions and stuff like that. He's very resourceful, but and he's willing to do whatever it takes to stop the crime syndicate, even though the government has rolled over for them. It's interesting to see this version of like the Joker. He has like a Harley Quinn type outfit and everything. And I would have liked to see him interact with Batman at least once in the movie. He does have a pet monkey called Harley. They always find a way to incorporate her into every media they have. And I like this. It's nuts. She's a monkey and everything. And so, he goes and recruits that of the Justice League, but he has to be able to find them. So, like, he commits like a crime and stuff like. Oh no, he doesn't commit a crime. He tells the police, oh, I'll just commit a crime and that should get their attention. So they call the Justice League, and he's naked in the cell. This is one of the earlier depictions of nudity in like the early DC animated movies, and I hate that. So of course, Superman doesn't necessarily trust him or like him that much. And I have to admire this Lex. He's alone. All his friends and like allies are dead and everything. And he's the one single person now who's trying to make a difference for his world, because he sees the corruption going on and he's not going to stand for it no more. And so, he pleads out to that of the Justice League and stuff. And the only person who are really on the fence are like Green Lantern and Batman. Green Lantern doesn't want to do it because, he's all like, it's a different dimension out of our jurisdiction and stuff like that. And Batman just flat out just doesn't want to do it because he's all like, we have to protect our Earth. Our watchtower isn't rebuilt yet. And we have a responsibility to the people on our Earth and not nobody else's Earth. And so Diana doesn't feel the same way, and neither does Superman or like Martian Manhunter or the Flash. And this Batman was just straight up cold, man. Like, I get what he's saying. Like, his Earth is defenseless, but they have other heroes on their Earth. So it's not completely defenseless. This is just the moody Batman we're going to see for over the next, what was it, like 10, 15 years and stuff? Maybe 20 or whatever. And so, like, yeah, they just leave without him. And he does look kind of sad knowing that, they didn't agree with him and they just straight up left. Now, while they was debating this, Lex left the quantum trigger at their watchtower to hide it because he didn't want like the crime syndicate to find it. They find that and it's all over. They own the entire world and stuff. And, so mostly this version of Lex is partnered with that of Superman. And they do bicker a little bit because Lex has a plan. Superman doesn't like his plan and does like, what he wants to and stuff. Because he's the leader of the Justice League and they have more experience and stuff. And, we see him and Superman fight like, what's his name? Jimmy Olsen, which is really hilarious. I was not expecting Jimmy to look like that. That dude is bulked up on steroids. And like the next thing you know, Ultraman shows up. And I like how they defeat him and stuff because Lex knows he can't take him down on his own. But the cool thing is Lex went to other dimensions to find that of Ultraman's like weakness and stuff, which was blue kryptonite, which I really love. Like the different shades of kryptonite, what they can do. It reminds me so much of Smallville. And this Lex is not afraid to stand up to that of the president, President Slade Wilson and stuff. Slade Wilson is the president of this dimension, which is hilarious and stuff. But he is like former military, but he's not an assassin. And he's a complete coward to that of the crime syndicate. Like he's literally just giving up. He wants to have willpower again, but he doesn't have it because of what happened to his wife. And what happened to his wife, we see in a very quick flashback of Rose's like memory that Ultraman used his heat vision to kill her in the limo and stuff. Since then, his priority is to protect his daughter and protect his country, even if it means rolling over to that of the enemy and everything. But it was cool at the very end of the movie, like he finally stood up to them once he realized he had a chance. He wanted the Justice League to kill the crime syndicate, but Superman played up plain and simple said, they don't do that. And but then towards the end, when he realized that the device that's holding them hostage is no longer on that earth, he gets the military, the Air Force, not Air Force, but the astronaut people. And the dude literally said he brought nukes for everybody. And the whole moon outpost thing is surrounded. Like I just love that line. I brought nukes for everybody. He'll blow every single last one of those members up one by one. Now, the Martian Manhunter and Rose Wilson, they have their own separate plot. Basically, she's an advocate. She doesn't like what's going on, and she stands up to the crime syndicate, protesting and making tons of speeches, which is an attempt on her life by their version of Green Arrow. And Martian Manhunter saves her. Now, the thing about her and Martian Manhunter is that he's able to read her mind. Duh, he's able to read everybody's mind. But he says the reason why he's able to read her so smoothly is because they are a tone or something like that. Basically, they're compatible for like loving, I guess you could say, or their minds are and stuff. So they start to crush on each other extremely fast within minutes, even like kissing and sharing each other thoughts. And this is when we get the cool flashback of the Justice League fighting Starro and everything, and a whole bunch of like other stuff. And we get to see Martian Manhunter's origin and everything when he came to Earth, gave that scientist a heart attack, his planet getting destroyed by the white Martians, his family literally burning up on screen, a baby and woman burning, or a child and a woman burning up on screen. It's very, very tragic. And of course, we get to see what happened to Rose's mother and stuff. Now, like I said before, their plot slows down the movie to that of a crawl and everything, which can get a little irritating. I still don't understand why they benched him to have like a love subplot. Like, I just don't get that. Ultraman literally says he is the boss of bosses. They have this dude acting like a stereotypical kind of like Italian mob boss, even to the skin tone and like the facial structure, even in the tone of like the voice with a slight New York type accent and everything. This dude is arrogant and a prick, and he literally bolsters himself around and does whatever the heck he wants. He is not afraid of the president when the president is all like, yo, I will nuke you if you come near my daughter and everything, and literally slaps the man in the face, drawing blood. And he basically just wants to take over the world. Like, he could care less. And it's like, It's cool seeing this version of like a Superman. I love how he's affected by blue kryptonite because I love the traditional Superman, but it is nice to see Superman go up against somebody who's very, very similar to him and stuff. And they do have like a brief like scuffle and everything. That's the one thing about this movie. They do have their counterparts fighting each other for the most part, but Superman and Ultraman are very, very brief. Like when Lex and him went to go fight Jimmy, in comes Ultraman and Superman doesn't fight him. He wants to, but Lex won't let him because he's all like, if this is gonna mean anything, I have to be the one to defeat him so that the people can see this because y'all are just gonna leave once our world is safe and everything. And I love that dialogue. Like, that's something you would hear in a live action show or movie, and you're hearing it in animation. So Wonder Woman doesn't really have like no plot. She's just there to dish out a butt whooping and everything. And she has some of the best fighting choreography next to that of Batman and Owlman. They do explain how she gets her invisible jet, and it's very ingenious in my opinion. Basically, when they return to Lex's Earth, the crime syndicate is there and they all get into a fight. They fight all up in the building, but they only have Wonder Woman only fighting females. I guess they didn't want to show a man hitting a woman in this movie. So the fight literally goes outside, but they're extremely high up in the sky, like hundreds of feet in the air. And so not everybody can fly. So Flash, they don't have him do his like whirlwind like arms. They just have Wonder Woman save him and stuff. And so she's actually fighting Owlman. That's right. She does fight a man once in this. And Owlman's suit is like really strong and Wonder Woman can't even beat him. And so she manages to get him out of his jet, the owl jet and everything, which is like a stealth jet. And when she rescues like the Flash and stuff and Lex, he tells them there's a chameleon circuit, which is just a cloak. So they find it, but at that time, the Marvel family comes in and they set the entire sky full of lightning. So while in cloaking mode, the vessel gets hit by lightning and is stuck in invisible mode. And thus she has her invisible jet and she actually brought it back for like her dimension and stuff. And it's a really cool scene at the end of the movie. I don't know where the heck they went and like got the jet from because when they go to like the moon outpost, they're flying with Green Lantern's ring. There's no jet. So where the heck was the jet? Unless she stole another one of Owlman's like ships and their vessels and everything, or jet. And so like when they come home, if you look at the corner, right corner, you'll see it glowing purple, and then the Flash runs with his super speed and hits the jet. And so she decides, hey, I'm gonna keep this thing. That is so much a better explanation than that of the live action Wonder Woman movie where she just has a jet. Like they couldn't do something cool like that. Like she steals a military jet, it gets hit by lightning, and then boom, she gets to keep it. I mean, come on now. Or at least have Hephaestus make it like in the animated series. I swear, when animation does things better than live action, that is embarrassing. Now, one of the best fights she has is with Wonder Girl. I love that fight so much because Wonder Girl whoops her behind. And when she gets knocked to the ground, boy, she lets out that rage and she whoops on that girl and stuff. Her and Superwoman, they have a pretty good fight as well. I love how they incorporate wrestling techniques into Wonder Woman's fighting. That whole like Greek, Roman, Greco like wrestling style, because it sets her apart from everybody else. Superwoman. She's one of the earlier depictions of an extremely horny sexual person in animation for the DC. She is always thinking about boom boom time and stuff, but in a very rough foreplay kind of way. Like she's dating Owlman and she's the one who figures out that he has a hidden agenda. He doesn't plan on using their bomb to take over the government. he has something more sinister in mind. Now, originally that was the plan until he found out about Lex's parallel dimension, like time sliding device. And so, like, she tells him straight up, hey, you want to destroy the entire universe or entire multiverse so everybody dies? She's in. Or why is she in for her own demise? That don't make no sense, because that's how twisted she is in the head along with him. And so she controls the Marvel family. And it's really cool to see, like, Captain Marvel, Shazam, and Captain Marvel Jr. and stuff. And so, like, they have really sleek, cool outfits. Now, originally, I assume that Superwoman was the Wonder Woman counterpart, but many people online believe that she's Mrs. Marvel and everything, Mary Marvel. And so, like, Gina Torres does an amazing job, like, voicing her. She takes a liking to Batman and cheats on Owlman with her by kissing him. Basically, Owlman has found the quantum trigger, tells her to go to the Justice League dimension to go get it. So while Batman is fixing up, like, the Watchtower, her and her goons come in and he tries to fight them off, and kind of like this construction mech suit and everything, but they're too strong for him. But he has like a backup plan, and he uses the teleporters similar to what they did in the Justice League and Unlimited series. And he brings in like Aquaman, Red Tornado, Black Lightning, and what's his name? Black Canary. And I'm just like, what? I was not expecting this and stuff. It's very brief and they barely talk, but they fight like the Marvel family and they're having a hard time. I do like the fact that they have to struggle. I love Black Canary's design in this. She looks amazing, and it sucks she's so brief in like the movie, but she's voiced by Kari Rohr. And so she's from the television show Sliders, which is perfect because this is dealing with parallel dimensions, a sliding device. So that's really cool. I like that and stuff. Aquaman has a mullet, and I don't know why. And it's kind of funny that they know like all these heroes, but they not own like the Justice League. But Batman is just able to teleport them as well. I wish there was more explanation to that, because it's just kind of like, what if they were doing something else? Are they literally just on standby the entire time? But she gets the quantum trigger, she teleports out of there, and Batman jumps in like her sliding stream. And this is where the foreplay starts, where those two are literally fighting, and she's just trying her best to like land a punch on him, because she's as strong as like Superwoman, Supergirl, and Wonder Woman, and like he knows he's gonna die if he gets like smashed. And she legit breaks his rib. Now the way he knocks her out is hilarious. He just throws his like gas bombs, and she's all like, it's just a smoke bomb, and she inhales it, but it's knockout gas. And then he legit just calls like the Justice League and gets pissed at Luthor for hiding the quantum trigger on like the Watchtower. But the worst of the worst has to be Owlman. Now they don't reveal his name, but normally Owlman in some depictions is Thomas Wayne. And Batman not only gets to fight his father, but meet his father from a parallel dimension, but doesn't know it's him. They do bring up references a lot, like when Owlman and Batman are fighting on that parallel world, he's all like, what happened to you? Something tragic must have happened in your past to make you go down this path and wear that costume and everything. And it makes you think, oh, he's also talking probably about like himself and everything. But like Owlman's suit is like extremely tough. Wonder Woman can't pierce it. Batman straight up tried to blow up Owlman's head with a bat bomb and everything, and that couldn't crack the helmet. And he literally tells Batman, you're tough and everything, and you should have sent your flying man after me, because maybe he would have stood a chance. maybe, hear the word maybe, letting you know that even Ultraman and Superman can't like damage Owlman's suit. It's made out of extremely tough metal and everything. And Batman is having the fight of his life. Like, I've never seen Batman struggle this much in a fight unless it's against Bane and everything. And it's just like everything Batman throws at him, Owlman is able to counter because his tools are a lot stronger. His bombs are stronger, his grapple is stronger, his batarangs is stronger, like everything. I don't understand this. This one scene where Batman shoots out his grappling thing and he shoots it onto the ground. Like, why? I don't get that. But Batman is smart, and I love when Batman always saves the day. Basically, after talking to Luthor and everything, he realizes that, like, um, the sliding device holds about a dozen different worlds that you visit, or it holds about a dozen when you start like scrolling on it. So when he was with Superwoman, she started scrolling on it and she found the world that has no life on it. Now, the reason why Batman was looking for that parallel dimension with no people in the world is because Owlman plans on detonating the bomb on Earth Prime. If he can detonate it on Earth Prime, he destroys all of reality in the multiverse. Similar to Turtles Forever when Shredder tried to do that. So, dude literally murders Owlman by tying him up to the bomb and teleporting him to like that other dimension, talking about we both looked into the abyss, but when you look back, you blinked. And Owlman straight up blew up on that other like world and stuff. So what about the other man Batman killed? Johnny Quick. So after the big fight, and when Owlman realized that he found Earth Prime, he teleported out of there. He blocked Luthor's device from piggyback on his Sentinel and following him and stuff. So they realized that, like, their device is out of power. They're gonna need something to generate a portal so they can travel to. So Lex realizes that if somebody with super speed can vibrate their molecules in place at a certain frequency, they can open the portal and go to the same, like, dimension that Owlman went to. The Flash wants to do it because he's a hero and flashy and stuff. But Batman lies to him and talking about you're not fast enough. So here comes Johnny Quick and like, oh, you're inferior, so I have to do it. So he does it. Batman, as smart as he is, realizes that speeding up your molecules and using the speed force will aid you rapidly and everything, killing you and stuff. And so when Batman came back, he told Johnny to stop vibrating. The moment he did, dude was like an old man and passed away and died. And I'm just like, dude, Batman killed 2 people. Like, that's just insane. But it goes like over your head and everything. So yes, I do feel like this is the best Justice League movie to ever be made. And like it's just so well thought out. Like from the story to like, the characters. And I love the art design so much. Like I wish to God they never like went to the whole like Tomorrowverse crap or like because the Tomorrowverse, their animation was crap. Plain and simple as that. It was some of the laziest stuff I've ever seen. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.